Hello, guys. Say you are given a list of names like that, and what you have to do is you have to write a program that creates another list. Say, for example, the name of the list is result. That creates another list that contains only those names which have three characters. That is, only those names 3 characters long. So, for example, if these are the names which are given to you, then your program should generate a list that contains, and say, for example, we are looking for 3 characters long names. So, in that case, this name Tom will appear in this final list, then Dave, then Bob, then Ram, and Raz. So that should be the list that your program should generate as an output. So this is the program that we have to write today. So to do that thing, how you're going to solve this problem actually? So first thing is you should know like when this problem is given to you, you should know like what are the things that you already know and what are the concepts that you know which you can use here to solve your problem. As the problem statement says that you have to find all those names whose length is 3. So implicitly it gives you an idea like, okay, anyhow at some point of time you have to actually iterate over the list. You have to go through each and every element present there in the list, and you have to investigate about their length properties. So the first step is like how you already know like, okay, that you have to make use of a loop so that you can iterate over all the names starting from cell number 0 to starting from till cell number n minus 1, where n is the length of the list, n is the like number of names present there in the list. So that is one thing. The other thing is that you need to know like, okay, you can actually go to cell number 0 in your first iteration, then this is your cell number 1 in the second iteration, third iteration, and fourth and fifth, and like then this is your n minus 1. So you can do that. The thing is, how do you know what is this n? Certainly you can make use of this length property, len of the names list, right? So it will tell you how many names are there in this given list names. So that problem is also solved, and you know how to iterate over all the elements present there in the list using a while loop. So that problem is also solved. A third thing that you need to do is, say, as soon as you go to a particular cell, say for example at some iteration I am in cell number 2, that is I'm at the cell in the index 2. So in that case, what I have to do actually, so what it is that I'm looking for, what it is that I'm doing when I reach a particular cell there in the list. So what we have to do is, here we are looking for all the names whose length is equal to 3. It means as soon as we get into a particular cell, there we have to find, okay, how many characters are there in this name, right? That thing also you can do using this length function like len, but this time, see, previously also, like, to know how many elements were there in the list, then also you use the same function. That is, you were actually asking how many numbers are there in this collection names. So in names you have, suppose 10 names, so it will return you a 10. Same thing you are going to do here also. That is, ultimately you are actually counting how many elements are there in a collection. Say length of, if now instead of writing names, if you write, say for example, names of say 2. So in that case, ultimately what question you are asking to the computer is, length of names of 2 is, say, Saurav. So names length of Saurabh, say Saurav. And ultimately what you are asking the computer to find out is how many characters are there. This Saurav is basically, it's a collection of some characters, right? So as a result, what you are asking is how many characters are there in this collection of characters. So as a result, this len function will return you the number that is actually 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So 7 it will return you. So now that your third problem is also solved. Like now, every time you go to a particular cell, then you know actually how to count how many characters are there in the name which is there in that particular cell. And the last thing that you need to do is like, okay, we know that thing also. Then after that, what? Like, what you have to do basically is you have to go to each and every cell, and then you have to find out how many characters are there in the name which is there in that particular cell. So suppose at some iteration you came to know that there are like 7 characters. Since you are looking for 3 characters long names, so in that case, you will not consider if the number turns out to be 7, then it will not be a match. So which cells will be your match? Like say when you reach say at this particular cell, and then you like count how many characters are there in this name. So it will be 3. And since you are looking for those names which have 3 characters, so you'll consider that this is a match. Similarly, you'll consider this is also a match, this one is also a match, and a match. So there are 2 situations here. One is when you reach the cell and you encounter a mismatch, like these unmarked names are mismatch actually. Like these are all not 3 characters name. And or when you reach a cell, it could be a match. 2 possibilities. It could be a mismatch or it could be a match. Now, what are the things that you want to do when you encounter a mismatch and when you encounter a match? That is your final piece of the puzzle. Now, what you want to do when it is a mismatch, say for example, when you started with I equal to 0, then it is a mismatch, then what you want to do is you simply want to move to the next cell. This one is also a mismatch, so you'll be moving to the next one, and then the next one, next one, next one, and this one. When you reach here, you'll come to know, okay, this is a match. Now, when you find a match, when you encounter a match, what it is that you want to do? What you want to do is, see, ultimately, we want our program to generate another list. We want our program to generate another list that contains all the names which have 3 characters. So as a result, as soon as you find a match, what you want to do is you want to put the match, that is the match name, or when I say match name, it means that you want to put the value of that particular cell, whatever the value of that particular cell or whatever the value of that particular element, you want to put that value, you want to make a copy of that thing, and you want to you want to insert that copy at the end of this result list. Now see, when we execute the program, when you start with the program, obviously this result list will be a blank list, right? Because when you started with this at this point, your result is blank. Now you went through all these mismatch, and then finally you got your first match. So that time, as soon as you get a match, what you want to do is you want to put the match name at the end of result list. So certainly, yeah, till now you most probably have realized like, okay, the initial state of that result list must be empty, because when you start the program, that time you do not know what are the matches you are going to encounter, right? So initially you will start with a blank list. So for the first time, like for as soon as this first match is found, immediately you should realize that this result now will have this Tom as its sorry this Tom as its content, right? Now now this is the tasks that you want to do, and how you are going to achieve these, how you are going to do this task, you already know, like the solution for that. I already told you in the previous video that if you want to insert an element at the end of a list, see, you remember, when I asked you to like imagine a list as a tortoise. Like this is your tortoise is basically, you can like an analogous analogy of a list in our real world. So this tortoise internally maintains a list. So it has a name. So for example, now this is your result tortoise. So as soon as you find a match, what you want to do is you want to put that match at the end of these and the end of the list which is maintained by this result tortoise. So how you are going to do that? So since you want that result tortoise to do something, so you'll be writing something like this: that result dot, that is, you want to ask this result tortoise to append the content, whatever it is the value of, so wherever you find a match. So where can you expect to find a match? In the names list, whatever that index it is on the, so that is, suppose at the ith index you found a match, so that time what will you do is, at the ith index of the names list, whatever it is the value, that value you want to append at the end of the list, which is maintained by this tortoise list, tortoise result. So as a result, what this tortoise will do is, it will create a new cell there, and it will put, suppose the first match is your Tom, so it will put Tom at the end of this list. Now you see, these are things that you need to know. But is what we realize, that if we have to solve this problem, like what is the problem? Let me tell you one more time. The problem is that you are given a list of names, and what you have to do is, you have to write a program that generates a result list, which contains all the names which have three characters in it. So what is the, like, how you're going to approach the problem? First thing is, we want to iterate over all the names present there in this list, and then we want to, in each iteration, what we want to do is, we want to compare whether the number of characters in the whether the number of characters in the name which is there in a particular cell is same as 3. So if it is not a match, then simply we'll move to the next cell, and if it is a match, then what we're going to do is, we are going to put this value, whatever that name is, we're going to make a copy of that value, and we are going to put that copy at the end of our result list. So once the loop is over, that result list will contain all the names which have three characters in them. So since we know all the things now, let's write the code and see the output. So first thing is, we want to iterate over the list of these names, right? So you need to use a loop. So for that reason, you need a loop variable. Say the loop variable is I equals 0, because you want to start at the index 0. Done. And then suppose you want to store, like, okay, what is the length that you are interested in? So I'm storing it in a variable, say k equal to n, or let me give it like, say, key length. Okay, key length is equal to 3. So this is the length we are interested in. This is the length of the names we are interested in. Okay. So then what we want is, we want to start our loop, like, while, as long as the value of this variable I is less than, how many names are there we need to know. So for that reason, we'll be storing the length of the list names in a variable n, and we'll make use of that variable here, I is less than n. As long as the value of I is less than n, we want to iterate over the list of we want to iterate over the elements present there in the list, right? That is, we want to do something here, and after doing that, what we want to do is, after doing that, we want to increase the value of I by 1. So what we want to do, we didn't write anything here actually, here at this point. We didn't write anything here at this point, but simply say we do something here, and then we want to move to the next element present there in the list. That is, the control will go back to this point. It will evaluate the condition one more time. If it is true, that is, if the index is still somewhere in the list, okay, when the conditional becomes false, when your, see, say, suppose this hand symbol is your I, in the first iteration, I will be at 0 at index, then 1 index, 2 index, 3 index, like that. Like that, it will go to all these indexes one at a time. At some point of time, your index will point to this. That is, the value of I will become equal to n. See here, if this is the 0th index, obviously this will be n minus 1 index, and if there is next value, then that value will be equal to always n, right? So that means when you go out of the list, as soon as you go out of the list, this condition will become false, and it will take the control out of the loop. What we want to do here, like when we get inside, when we see here, we just went to the cell, and then simply we move to the next cell. If you consider this code, then what is happening here is, it simply went to the first cell, and then it did nothing here, and then increases the value of I by 1. So it means it actually simply moves to the next cell, and the next cell, and the next cell, like that, right? Okay. Let's see after that. So say once we reach the end of this list, we want to, like, what we want to do is we want to print the resultant list, that is the result list that we created. But the thing is, till now in this program we didn't create any result list. So we also want that, right? That is, we want that other list where we are going to store the maths names. So for that, say for example, this is your result list, and which is a blank list initially, obviously. You know that you have to start with the blank list. And then say, for example, at the end, we print the content of our result list. Done. Now, see, this is the sort of the skeleton of your program. What this program is doing is it's like, creating the necessary variables, and also it has created the, the loop actually. What the actual operation is, somewhere we have to write here, right? What we want to do when we go to a particular cell. But right now, this skeleton of the program is not doing anything. It simply went to the cell, moved to the next cell, and the next cell, and the next cell, and the next cell, like that. So that way, if you think, if you execute this program is not going to show you anything basically, right? At some point of time, it will iterate over all these names, and at the end, it will print this result list as a blank list, because you started with a blank list, and nowhere in your program you change the content of this result list. So obviously, logically, you should conclude that obviously at this point, if you print the result, certainly it will come up with a blank content, right? So I guess up to this point everything is clear. Now let's move to the actual point. Now, what we want to do when we reach a particular cell, that is the part left, right? What we want to do actually, so we want to do a comparison, like if whatever the cell I am at, if, and in that cell whatever the name it is there, or whatever the string it is there, if the length of that particular string is same as the key length, that is the question that we want to ask. So what we want to do is we want to see if names of I, that gives you the current cell. And if you simply write names of I, it means that you are actually asking the computer to go to the list names and go to the index I, say I equal to 0, and retrieve the value. So names of 0 is minus, so minus will be retrieved. But the thing is, we do not want to compare this minus with anything. What we want to compare is, we want to know what is the length. So the value is minus, but the thing is, we want to know what is the length of the content there. So we'll be making use of this function, len, and then we'll pass, like say, I equals 0. So in that case, we will be asking what is the length of minus. So now, once we know what is the length of the manas, that length we want to compare whether that length is same as the key length or not. Now, this is ultimately is your condition that you want to check when you reach a particular cell. What condition you want to check? You want to first retrieve the value. See here, this length function, within this length function, you are passing this names of I as an input. So first thing that it will do is it will first retrieve. It means the computer will first retrieve this content. So it is manas. So that manas will be passed to this length function. So length of manas will be 4. I mean 5. Length of manas will be 5. So that ultimate number 5 will be compared with this key length that you have stored as 3. Now, if these two numbers turn out to be the same, I mean, this is one number, length of a string is one number, and key length is the variable that holds another number. So if these two names are turned out to be the same numbers, then what you want to do is, that indicates that you encounter a match actually. Say for example, I equal to, at some point of time, suppose I is somewhere here, so that time certainly these names of I will be Tom, length of Tom will be 3, key length is also 3. So what you want to do when you encounter a match, that is the part that we have to write here. So what we want to do is, we want to pass a message to the result tortoise, because we have a tortoise, this that initially started with a blank list. So we want to pass a message to the result tortoise. How do you do that? That result is the name of the tortoise, and we'll be using this dot operator. As soon as we write the dot operator, you'll be able to see that these are the different messages that you can pass actually to a result tortoise. Okay. So result dot, we want to pass a message to the result tortoise that you append this value, whatever it is, this value. You will pass a value here. What value you want to append at the end of that list, and what will be that value? Whatever it is, the content of that particular cell. And how you retrieve the content of a particular cell? Just by writing these no, writing this expression, that is names of I. Simply I'll be copying it and pasting it. That is how you are going to retrieve the content of a particular cell. You have to write the name of the list, and within the square bracket you have to write the index of the cell that you are interested in. So that way, so as soon as you find a match, as soon as you find a match at ith index, so what you are going to do is you are going to retrieve the content of the list at ith index, and that content you want to append at the end of the result list. That's all. That is the case when you want to do, that is the case that you want to do when you find a match. That is, if this condition turns out to be true, then you want to do something like this. However, if this condition is not true, is there anything that you have to do? That is, if the condition is not true, else part, is there anything specific that you want to do? So if the condition is not true, basically you do not have to do anything, right? If suppose here it is 5 and you are looking for 3, so certainly it is not a match. So you do not do anything. Anyhow, you're going to move to the next cell due to the execution of this I equal to I plus 1. So in that case, as you should realize that there is no else part actually. There is no specific thing that you want to do when this condition turns out to be false. So as a result, you can conclude that you do not have to write anything in the else part of the program. Done. Now see, these I equal to I plus 1, again I'm telling you, these I equal to I plus 1 is completely independent of the result of these Boolean expression. I mean, no matter whether this condition is true or false, this I equal I plus 1 is always going to be executed. Okay. So that is all. I mean, that is the program. I mean, this is the task. So we didn't write initially these two lines, and these two lines does the job, rest of the job. I mean, whenever it is a match, you simply copy the content of that match cell and you append it at the end of your result list. And when the loop is over, at the end, you just print the content of the result list, and that is your answer. So see, Dev, Bob, Raz, and Ram and Raz. These are the names which have 3 characters in it. Now see, this is a general program now. Now, if you are now interested in all the names which have 7 characters, then you just change this key length to 7 and run the program. You'll come to know that, okay, there are like, these are the 2 names. Interesting, no? These are the 2 names which have 7 characters. I thought no names here have 7 characters. But say, let's say, is there a name which have 10 characters in it? Exactly 10 characters, okay? Oh, it's interesting. Upasana Tom. Is there a name? Oh, okay. See here, there is a point you should know that Upasana Tom, there is not a comma here. So what it is assuming is that this is still the same string, Upasana and Tom. It is still the same string. Okay, since there is not a comma here. As soon as I put a comma at the end of this list, and if I run the program, you will see the list is empty now. Okay, so that way, say I want to know how many names are there which have exactly 4 characters in it. So Avi is the name which has exactly 4 characters in it. So that way, this is the program that returns you. So when a list of names are given to you, this program returns you all the names which have exactly these many characters in it. Hope you people have understood the program, enjoyed the video, and learned something from the video. See you guys with a new problem in the next video.